tied to photos, letters and names. Packed up our lives and began once again. We serve in the shadows, we carry the weight with stories that matter. Don't let them wait. Every story matters, from bases to war zones, from tearful reunions to cold nights alone. Spouses and veterans, hearts that won't quit, telling the truth about all of it.
Hey, okay, welcome back, everyone. It's just another day in the life as a military wife. And I forgot to do my intro when I did the last segment, but I'm going to do it this time. I'm super excited to have yet another military spouse panel and to have Erika and Maria joining me again. We are going to be talking about moving OCONUS this time around. So basically, if you're moving, if you're new to the military and you don't know what OCONUS means, then you're like, hey, what is this? OCONUS means when you're moving, PCSing, moving inside the continental United States. And so this is just state to state in the main part of the United States. This does not include Alaska and Hawaii. And this is what I have the most experience with because that's what we've done the most in our military career. But Erika, I know you've done more OCONUS. Maria, you've done a little bit of both, right?
I've done both. Yeah, we've done a couple, well, mostly just stateside and then Korea.
Okay. So for all you who remember, Maria Strange is a fabulous podcaster and military life. Well, she's a life coach in general. She's also working on her master's degree. So she's a super busy woman and a
So my
homeschooling mom.
podcast is kind of taking a pause while I work on my master's and homeschool, because between those two, that like takes all my time.
Yeah, totally understandable. That's a full plate. So I'm grateful you carve out some time for me and helping me out on my channel. I really appreciate it. And Erika, Air Force wife, now her husband is Army DOD. They're empty nesters. She's a YouTuber and hangs out on everyone's channels, helping people like me, right?
Yeah, just kind of hanging with a amazing YouTube community and new friends. You know, as military spouses, we're always making new friends in varying communities, and I just happened to land in the, of all places, the YouTube space.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to have both of you guys because honestly, these conversations are a lot more interesting and a lot more helpful when we've got lots of different takes on these topics. Because, as I say all the time, I have not done everything there is to do on the military life. I've not experienced everything. And so having you guys to help me out with these conversations is important. That said, okay, so have you ever what OCONUS moves have you guys done? Starting with Maria.
OCONUS, so let me think. Korea. We went to Korea
from not Korea. Yeah.
So Spencer actually went to Korea first.
I mean CONUS. I said OCONUS again. See,
So
okay, people, I'm human. We're gonna do OCONUS too, but I mean CONUS. Continental US, state to state. What have you done?
We've done so when he first joined the Army, we were in Utah, and when he went to basic and AIT, I was big and pregnant, so I moved home. So I went to California. So we went from Utah, I guess, to California, and then his first duty station was Kentucky, and then we went to Alabama, and then overseas. So we'll come back to that. And then we were in El Paso, and we went from El Paso to New York, and then from retirement New York to Texas.
Wow. Okay, so you have a lot of experience.
So, like I've said, I have driven every major highway across the U.S.
So with all those moves, well, we'll get into that in just a second. Erika, have you done
No.
Yours have always been continental U.S. to out. Okay.
I had to sit and think about your question. I'm like, yeah, we've done stateside, and I realized no, we haven't. we never had orders from a stateside base to another stateside base. So that was a weird full circle moment here a second ago.
And see, okay, and I'm the completely opposite side of the spectrum. We've only gone from one state to another. We've never left the continental US. So this right here shows all of you guys who are listening that it's very different. Nobody's military experience is going to be exactly like yours. And so when you're asking from advice from other military spouses, just know they're going to tell you what they know, but you're going to also have to learn on the fly and be flexible because heavens knows life is, mm, yeah, life is unpredictable in the military. Um, so with that, then you've always had the military move you because you've always done the Okana stuff, right, Erika?
Yeah, I don't know what it's like to live or move officially PCS wise from a stateside base to another stateside base.
Did you
Yeah.
ever move from, so like we've done this where we've moved from one house to another at the same duty station?
We did that
Like
once.
you did that
We
once?
moved, well, but it was overseas. We were living off base, and then we requested to live on base.
Okay. But so you have switched from the on base to the off base. So we'll talk about that a little bit. What was one of the things that struck you? You were off base and you moved on base, correct?
Yeah.
What was one of the culture shocks from living off to living on?
So culture shock definitely happened when we lived in Japan. I had never lived outside of Florida. I'm a girl that grew up in one place, one address my entire life. My parents are not military. So our first orders at the age of like 24 was a slap in the face. We were headed for Okinawa, Japan. And that was a massive blow. And the culture shock was a lot harder there than Germany down the road. At least in Germany, there are, at least the alphabet is, very similar to the American alphabet, where in Japan, you've almost got two different sets of alphabets living in Japan. You've got, the kanji, and then you've got, they have some alphabet type language there, but
they've got the hiragana and the katakana.
Yeah, but in Okinawa, the base housing was plentiful. We were able to get right into base housing very easily. And now Germany was a different scenario. There are more military members living off base in the German economy versus on base. So the base housing here does not stretch very far. There's usually, at the point that we PCS'd here to Germany, there was a 2-year waiting list for base housing, and that was to get into a townhome. Now, if you wanted to be in an apartment, you could, the wait list was much shorter. And of course, you have to, everything's based on the size of your family, how many boys to girls you have to accommodate how many bedrooms for your base housing dwelling. We're a small family, and we had technically 2 boys, because my older son was also a dependent. He was in DEERS. And so we always only qualified for a 2-bedroom dwelling, whether it's a townhome or a apartment style of military housing. But upon coming here to Germany, I actually wanted to live off base first. It was Europe, and it just seemed like a really cool vibe. My heritage is from Spain, so there's already some European customs in our family that wasn't so culture shocking moving here. And what got us was the cost. It was the utilities on military pay, and it was just more than what we were comfortable with in terms of budget. So the first year we lived off base. It was financially very hard. and we requested to live on base, but I knew better than ask for a townhome because that just wasn't going to happen. We didn't have the rank, let alone the size family, to even be considered for a nice townhome in the nice part of base housing. So I just said, whatever you have first available. All we need is a 2-bedroom anyways. So they got us in almost immediately into a 2-bedroom, very, and I mean very tiny apartment. And I mean, it was so small, it shocked me, almost to the point of tears, because in Okinawa, we had a 2-bedroom. We were in a quadplex, and it was a decent size. I mean, it wasn't overly big, but it was decent. It was comfortable for a family of like 3 or even 4. But here it was, wow, a lot smaller, and I was not expecting that. But it wasn't so much culture shock here. It was the expense. Europe was just expensive. The utilities is where it's really expensive.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? Since we're hitting a lot on your Oconus stuff, let's actually just cover Oconus right now, and then we'll get back to since I couldn't get it right anyway in the intro. We're just gonna go Oconus, right? Right. So with yeah, okay. So pricing is different, bills are different. Okay, Maria, when you were in Korea, you lived on the economy, correct? There was no living.
We did both too. We lived on the economy first because we went over non-command sponsored, and because Spencer was an officer and they didn't have enough room on base for him, he had an apartment on the economy, and so we went and lived with him. And then once we got command sponsored, we actually moved on to the base.
Which one did you prefer?
I liked being on base. We had 4 little kids, and so we were right. The kids could walk to school. All of their activities were right there. We could walk to the commissary. Like everything we really needed was within walking distance. And so I liked that with the kids being little. When we were off base, well, we loved where we were at. We had a neighbor below us who was constantly getting mad at us for being too loud. And I kind of lost it on Christmas. He would call the landlord, and the landlord only spoke Korean and would come over, but he spoke English. His wife was Korean and in the army, and he was Korean, and they both spoke English. Like they could have come and talked to us. And the landlord came over on Christmas and was trying to tell us in Korean we were being too loud. And I can remember I went down and I knocked on his door and I said, I don't know about you, but Christmas is kind of a big deal. I have 4 kids. We're just kind of loud and we're going to enjoy Christmas. So get over it. If we're too loud, come and talk to us. And he never complained again, but his music was always really loud.
Yeah,
and
that's something.
Mean, but I was like, this is ridiculous. Like you could come upstairs and just be like, hey, you're being kind of loud.
Mm-hmm.
But to call the Korean landlord who can't even communicate with us, I was like, no, we're done.
But
the neighbors below us, we love them. We did tons with them. Even once we moved on post, we did tons with them. So it was just kind of funny.
Yeah, honestly, tight living spaces, that is one thing you're going to have to get used to in the military. Sometimes you'll have room to, breathing room, and sometimes you're going to be a sardine with a lot of other people around. Yeah. We saw that with our one on post house. Every place we've lived on post has been like a normal neighborhood sort of thing, or like a normal apartment, American style, because we've only lived in the US. We lived on post. Oh my gosh, from our back window, I could see 30 other townhomes. 30 other townhomes could look into my back windows. And I'm sitting there going, that's great. I live in a fishbowl. You get really great curtains and blinds at that point, people. But Erika, what was like in Japan, navigating outside of base, and Maria, when in Korea, navigating in an Asian culture, were there things that surprised you, things that were fun surprises, or things that were like difficult to manage besides the language barrier?
It was fascinating. I never it was exhilarating. And we explored Japan with, or at least the island, with some other friends we had met pretty early on arrival. And we became really good friends with this couple that happened to be from our hometown. So it was like, oh my gosh, you guys we're all from the same town. And so we would go off base to go just explore, hit the shops and the malls and the grocery stores just to see like what's the difference between, an American grocery store and a Japanese, grocery store, even the shopping situation, which was very different. I can't even describe it. Their malls aren't, how we have enclosed stores, like you walk into a store and you walk out into the main mall drag. Well, it's not really, at least when we were there, it's not like that. I've seen videos, they've kind of gotten better about it. They've become a little bit more westernized, at least in Okinawa. But at the point that we were there, they had this shopping plaza or complex called Jusco, Jusco. And I don't even know if I'm still pronouncing it right to this day. But they had a full grocery store on one level. And then they had the shopping complex, I think, upstairs. And it was just one little kiosk after another with these different, you'd have a little Sanrio surprise Hello Kitty area, almost like a pop-up shop. They look like different pop-up shops. And that was different for me because you were literally walking into a different store, walking into these little pop-up shops that were just kind of placed everywhere. It was really interesting and really fascinating.
So did it look kind of like a department store, but it was a mall?
Yeah. So it did. It looked like, if you could imagine a department store like a Dillard's or a JCPenney's, but if you go into like the men's department, it's like its own separate store. I can't, I wouldn't know. And back then we didn't have, it's hard to, if you go and watch, people loaded videos over the years. If you go on YouTube and just type in Jusco, you'll see, and they may have restructured over the years too. It's been a really long, we were there from 2005 to 2008, and now they have built a 3-level American style mall with American brands. Like I think you can find Gap and stores like Gap, H&M. Yeah, they've come a long way since the earlier 2000s. But and the culture shock was interesting because everywhere you went, you saw the kanji. Obviously, the streets are smaller. Everything's more cramped. The buildings, and they build up. They don't build wide for obvious reasons. The food is very different. Just the overall smell and feel of the atmosphere, and hearing a different language all the time. When we went off base, my stomach would start to kind of react. And I always chalked it up to, well, maybe it was just something I ate, But I noticed every time we went on base, my stomach would settle. So
anxiety, maybe?
Yeah. So over time, I realized it was culture shock. And it was just the anxiety of it, just adjusting. Like your body can, and depending on the person, can physically like react that way. And it's not that you hate where you're at or there's any kind of offense. It's just not what you're used to, and your body and your psyche and your physical body are adjusting to a new norm for the time that you're there. And it's
no, I experienced, so I did an exchange in cultural exchange in high school and to Mexico. And then I later went back in college once I was actually a fluent Spanish speaker. But I remember experiencing that a little bit when I was around the other group of students, international students. I felt very comfortable. But then when I was like off one-on-one with my host family and they didn't all speak English, there were times where I would get that level of anxiety or stress. And it's good for you to mention that, because that's going to happen with new things, especially if you don't know the language or you don't know how to read the language. Maria, did you ever experience that? Like when you being out maybe without a spouse or whatever in the economy, trying to navigate actual Korea with like maybe kids and feeling a little overwhelmed?
Well, remember, I was pregnant twice. So I was pregnant twice when we were in Korea, and I had both my babies on the Korean economy, and both
Oh,
were
wow.
totally different experiences. But so we could go up to Seoul, which was an hour and a half away, or we could go. So Seoul was north, or we could go south 45 minutes to a Korean hospital. And we chose to do that. And I drove myself to the doctor's appointment. And every appointment I had to have a translator, but everything was so tight and compact. And how we parked, and I went to leave and I couldn't get into my vehicle. Like I literally couldn't
Oh,
fit.
no.
I couldn't climb in the back because there was a car, because I had backed in and there was a car back behind us. I couldn't fit in any sides. And I remember just calling a friend in tears. It was like, somebody come and pick me up. I can't get out of these dang tiny parking garage. And it was really common there. Like you would leave your vehicles in neutral because they would push their vehicles around so that people could get in and out of the parking because it was so tight. So I never drove to another appointment by myself.
I don't blame you.
I didn't want to know what my baby was. And at my 40-week appointment, and I had told him, remember, I don't want to know. I'm 40 weeks pregnant. I don't know what I'm having. The ultrasound tech goes, how did she word it? Girl Aggie, because Aggie, however they say it, means baby in Korean. So at 40 weeks, they told me I was having a girl.
Oh, no.
I was so sad. And all my other kids had been born by like 38 weeks. So I was already mad that I was still big and pregnant. And then she told me what I was having.
Oh, gosh. So you always had a translator? Erika, did you ever have to go, were you always at TRICARE, like military hospitals, or did you ever have to go on the Japanese economy to a doctor?
No, we always relied on TRICARE and American doctors. I never went through like OB, like obstetrics, or even labor and delivery. My kids were born in a civilian life, not in the military.
Yeah.
So I don't have that experience on what it's like to be pregnant in the military and having a baby in that circumstance. So, but we always lived super close to an Army or Navy hospital. Wasn't too far, and we always stuck to the med group that was on base. So that's
Well, and so that's an important thing for everyone who's listening to take into consideration. You may have the opportunity, like Erika was. Evidently, you were really lucky. But I have heard, especially in Korea, it is more likely that you will be on the economy. So just find out whatever country the military is sending to you, what the norm is. Again, military spouse pages are usually really great about helping clue you in on what the norm is. You can even call TRICARE and be like, hey, we're PCSing to this duty station. What is the typical arrangement? Do they typically have openings for providers on the duty station, or do we need to set up something on the economy? TRICARE should be able to answer those questions, but it's TRICARE, so take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes they give you the runaround. But that's one thing to consider before you're getting sent OCONUS is to start looking at, okay, what is my medical setup going to be? Am I going to need translators? Am I going to be on or off base? And those sorts of things. Then Erika, you were mentioning this too, and Maria, you probably ran into this. Utilities, navigating utilities in a foreign country when you don't speak the language. What's that like?
For us in Japan, we were in base housing the whole time. So we didn't have any encounters like that. Germany, however, that is a video on its own. You can actually go on YouTube and look up videos just on that topic by itself. But to summarize, basically what we have out here is a UTOP office. So it is an office set up for us Americans to go to set up our utilities. And they have contracts with some of the local utility companies water, gas, electric, and you set up your utilities through this UTAP office on base, and they represent you. So the way we understand, well, we were just recently kind of went through a snafu about a year ago. Apparently we racked up an 11,000 euro utility bill last year.
Oh
we didn't know
my.
about. It's another whole thing, and it's been resolved, whatever. But the way it was explained to us is this UTAP office they are the customer to the utility company, and the UTAP office merely represents us.
Okay.
So the Army garrison out here, because we fall under the Army now, not Air Force. Not that it really matters, because the UTAP office is both Army and Air Force. We were told, don't worry, the Army is taking care of this. So they almost act as like lawyers in a sense, or like mediators. Okay. And it was a huge relief that we had them, because out here, when you get into the spouses groups, you're hearing different things. Or there are families that opt not to use the UTAP office because they claim that the rates are cheaper with the utilities. There's a caveat to this. Here in Germany, it is not like in the States where you have like Tampa, for example, has TECO. You have Tampa Electric Company, which services pretty much the entire county all of Hillsborough County, for example. Mm-hmm. And it's not like that here. Here, utility companies is like how we shop around for insurance companies in the States. That is exactly how it is. So I can go down a whole list of different, quote, electric companies, and the one that has the best rate, the quote cheapest rate, I can technically go with. Now, some of these companies have contracts with the UTAP office, and it's your choice. We chose, we were just we hadn't never been to Europe before, or how they do things here. So we just kind of followed what our sponsor, because you are usually assigned a sponsor that's already been here a hot minute, and they literally walk you through everything, getting set up and getting settled when you first get here. And this is any overseas assignment. It doesn't matter. You are typically assigned a sponsor, and it is that sponsor's responsibility to help you get settled in with this kind of stuff, from setting up your military APO address box to how do you go about finding a place to live, getting your name on the housing list if you want to be put on the housing list, just all those logistics. That is what your sponsor is there to help you with. Now, whether you have a good sponsor or not, well, that's another story. We were blessed. We had decent sponsors, and we've been sponsors ourselves too. We've done it ourselves at least once or twice. But the utilities, you can shop around for the best rate, and you can opt out, which is fine. There is an argument to be made. It's cheaper, but you don't get that representation and the chance something happens. If something's going awry with your meter, you're unaware of it, and your meter readings aren't what they should be, or the company is misreading your readings like it was with us, and then you could debate if it was being done intentionally, because that is another thing being overseas. The longer you're overseas, the more you start to realize that some places don't really like the presence of our military being there. There is a level of that kind of politics, and the longer you're overseas, the more you see it, and the more you have those conversations, especially since social media has come on board. Military spouses, we can communicate faster and better than we have in yesteryears. So this whole OCONUS topic can go very deep. Okay, but I'm trying to.
We might need to just have a conversation about this. You know what? We're gonna put a pin in that. We will be having another conversation, evidently. Maria, what about you guys setting up your stuff with everything when you were in your little apartment?
All for me. So it was done when I got there, and then on post was totally different. So I didn't have to really deal with any of it. But like talking to I have friends who are in Korea, and she's moved actually a couple of times. So they've moved with the Army because they had a huge issue in one of the houses they were in. So they got moved. The actual rental company had to pay to move them that they were renting from because they had a mold problem that the landlord didn't take care of. And now he just transitioned. They got out of the military and just took a contractor job. And so they just moved again. And a lot of it goes through the realtor you have. The realtor you have kind of coordinates all of your deals, it sounds like. So they get their utilities and everything and what's included and what's not. And it's really working with the realtor that you have. But one of the things that she told me is how much easier it is now. Because when we were there, we got Korean GPSs, but they were in Korean. Like we didn't have the smartphones and the GPS like we have now. She's like, there's so many cool places that we missed out on because we just didn't know. And if you'd find something cool, it was like, well, how do I save it? How do I get back here? Now you just drop a pin and you can share it. And so she's like, Korea's so much more fun this time around with the technology, making it easier to figure things out.
That actually makes a lot of sense because we've noticed that even just here in the States, it's so much easier to find and share cool little things with social media, Google Maps, all of those different things than it was when we first got in and we were using even just our normal plug, our little Garmins that plugged into our cars. Okay, public transport versus getting a license. Did you guys, it sounds like you both have international license and have you both used public transport? What are your takes on getting a license in a foreign country?
Well, that was easy because you just do it through the military. So they just had an office. You went in and we did it. We just went and got our licenses. We did public transit a little bit. I didn't enjoy it having so many little kids because they're quick moving and trying to make sure everybody was on. That was nerve-wracking to me. So I preferred to drive. But one of the things that we always had, we'd always get told how rich we were because we had 3 little boys and 1 girl when we first went to Korea. Oh, you must be rich. But they would also, the Koreans, like one of the classes we took, they're like, we don't have personal space. There's too many of us here. You're going to get bumped. We're not apologizing. But they would just come up and touch my kids or give them treats. And it was just to be expected. It was just, they would stick bows in their hair or whatever they wanted.
Oh my. Wow. Okay.
But I always felt safe. So the public, it wasn't that I didn't feel safe. It was that I was like, there's too many. I can't hold 4 hands.
You were outnumbered.
Everybody's on the train together, but luckily nobody was ever left.
Oh
so
my.
I just found driving to be easier. If it was me and just like me and Spencer or 1 kid, then we would take public transit.
Okay. Erika, how about you?
So in both scenarios, we got our international driver's licenses through the military. So you go through like a crash course of what driving, what the laws of the roads are there in that country. And then you take a test and it's a written test, not actual physical driving test. And you pass, you get your license. Now here in Germany, you have to get 100% on your test. And it took me 6 hours to do my first. It was, I'm not a good test taker. I've got learning disabilities, but the one in Japan was easy peasy. No, it was a non-issue there. The only thing in Japan was adjusting to driving on the opposite side of the road because they drive on the same side as the UK. So that was an adjustment. Okay. But it was really cool. It's kind of cool to look back on your life and be like, yeah, I've gotten to experience that. And then here in Germany, they drive in the same side of the road as we do in the US. And the laws are pretty universal. I'm finding out for the most part. There's a few differences, here and there on signage and what constitutes as right of way, but it's relatively easy. And what some people may not know that we grew to know is when you book a rental, car rental back in the States, if you book from overseas and you show them your international driver's license, you don't have to pay tax on that rental, and it can save you quite a bit of money. So that has been quite the savings for us going back home to visit family. We will rent a car, but we always book from here, and we show them our German driver's licenses, and it's tax-free. We're only literally just paying the daily rate for the rental.
That's awesome. That's a really great tip for anybody who's coming from overseas. So thank you for that one. Do you like the public transport? Is it convenient?
I've never really taken it because we have our own car.
Okay.
I guess you could make the argument you don't need it because you have buses and trains around here. But having a car of your own, I personally like having my own car. I mean, living at least in this area of Germany, it's like living in a suburb in the States.
Okay.
And I mean, if you want to take the bus, you can. If you want to take a train, you can. If you live nearby a train station, it's more convenient. But we've never really relied on it. I think it's just because we're creatures of habit. You know, we're Americans. We're used to having our cars, and we just use our cars anywhere we go. Doctor's appointments, grocery shopping. Now we have had some friends that kind of go between both. You know, I think some families embrace the European culture more than others, and I don't think we're really that type. I know for me and Raph, we're just creatures of habit. You know, we just use our cars. We've never really relied on public transport, but we know it's there. And they actually give you classes on base how to use the public transportation. If you want to use it, you can. So I think it's through the USO, I think and they give tours. So they actually physically take you on location and show you how to use a train and how to use a bus in the area.
So the USO does that. Maria, was there something like that in Korea?
You had a bus on Korea, and it would take you off post so you could then get onto the trains. I mean, we've been back from Korea now. Lily, let's see, Taylor's turning 14, so almost 14 years. So I'm sure it's totally different now than it was when we were there. Like where we lived isn't even like they're the old housing, obviously. And they've built it up. Like we were in Camp Humphreys, and now they've sold down to Camp Humphreys. So Camp Humphreys is now the big one. They built a big hospital. They're building their third elementary school. Whereas when we were there was one. And the housing was right beside it.
Okay, so that's when you go to these places, even if you're running into people and they're like, oh yeah, I was there, check how long ago they were there, because technology changes, culture shifts, things get built up and changed. And so there might be new things. And programs like the USO are organizations, these nonprofits that are there, take advantage of those as well. They have been a huge help in traveling. I cannot even tell you how many times in a PCS or just traveling in general, we've gotten stuck in an airport and I've just crashed at the USO with children, and they've had snacks and movies and all sorts of stuff. So make sure you know where the USO is in any airport that you're going through. And honestly, I try to only use airports with USOs now. And then also just like looking for other organizations that are helpful in that area. Sometimes there's local ones, and sometimes there's in the Army, we have Army Community Services, and they tend to give you a lot of the coaching on those sorts of things as well. So thank you both for covering this, because honestly, I couldn't have done it without you. I've never lived as a military spouse outside of the US. So thank you. If you had one last tip or trick for the actual move, like moving, what would it be?
Well, going overseas, I would be aware, like, are you going to be off? Are you going to be on base or off? Because a lot of your appliances, current, they're not going to work if you're off base.
Adapters, yes.
Adapters, do something. So plan accordingly to that, and just bring your necessity. Like they're going to have resources there and things that you can get. So don't stress about overpacking to bring everything.
Okay.
Really use it as a time to de-junk. And what do you really need? And then when you come back, like, okay, what did I put in storage that I haven't missed that now I can get rid of as well?
Yeah, reprioritizing belongings is a great thing to do every move. Erika, how about you?
Oh goodness. Yeah, the adapters, like your international adapters for appliances. Of course, nowadays we've got social media, so plug into those local Facebook groups that's attached to that base that you're going to. Ask the spouses for all that local advice. There's also a Facebook marketplace where you can buy some of these things super cheap versus having to buy it brand new at your commissary or in the local economy. So, and usually now when you PCS overseas, you go through what's called an FMO office, and you are given basic furnishings to get you by until your furniture and household goods arrive from overseas, from the States. So you'll give in, I know when we were in Okinawa, we were given a couch, a love seat, a hutch, dressers, and yeah, that was about it. And like a coffee table and a dining room set just to get us by. Here in Germany, we were given these wardrobes because they don't have closets standardly in European housing. So they use like those wardrobe. So we got one for each family member, beds, like a living room set. I will warn, at least here at Ramstein, it's basically the equivalent of outdoor patio. It is extremely uncomfortable. You will be more comfortable just buying air mattresses than what the FMO office offers here compared to what we had at Kadena in Okinawa. We got Thomasville furniture in Okinawa. Here, it's plastic. You're literally sitting on plastic. It's mind-blowing, honestly. And
yeah, I've heard that air mattresses and camping chairs are sometimes better off and
better.
But that's where the social media groups will come in.
Yeah. And then your FMO office will also supply you with an American refrigerator and your washer and dryer. And they are on loan until you leave, until your orders come and you leave. So you get to keep that for the full duration of living there in that country, whether it's 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
So yeah, take care of you. You're not left in the cold or in the gap of, I'm sitting on cold floors. And if there is any kind of gap like that, you've got a whole community of spouses. At least nowadays, it's a lot easier to reach out to the community than it was, like 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, well, that is a lot of information to digest. We're going to wrap it up here, and we will pick up next time with what I'm meant to cover this time, which was continental U.S. moves. But thank you, Erika and Maria, for sharing your time and experience with us. And again, thank you all for you guys who are listening. I really appreciate your support and encouragement. If there are any other topics you'd like us to cover in these military panels, please let us know. We'd love to share what we've experienced and help you guys navigate military life, because heavens knows it can be complicated. So as always, let's be the good that we want to see in the world. And I'm your host, Sam Wolf, and you've been listening to Life of a Military Wife.
Spouses and veterans, hearts that won't quit, telling the truth about all of it. This life we live is hard and real, giving a voice to the lives that we live. This life we live is warm but strong, and every story deserves its song.